Another day, another bankruptcy court hearing for Joanne. Welcome to Sewing Report Live. I'm Jen, and Joanne back in Delaware bankruptcy court. Yes, this is like the 100th update. I don't even know at this point.
As we've discussed in previous hearings, the plan that we're seeking confirmation of today contemplates an efficient wind down of the debtors' estates and an expeditious claims reconciliation process. It also makes good on the deal that the parties reached prior to the sale hearing and delivers the final pieces of consideration that were deliverable under a plan. We worked with the term lenders, the purchaser, the creditors committee, and the U.S. trustee, as well as various other stakeholders and landlords to ensure that we have everyone's support for what we're seeking approval of today. Both of our voting classes voted in favor of the plan. And ultimately, the bottom line is we have global consensus on the form of plan.
This was not an easy case for unsecured creditors entering with a liquidation bid, but we've worked collaboratively and closely with the debtors to arrive at a settlement that will allow for $2.5 million to fund a trust on the effective date. Stub rent was paid already within 14 days of closing, which was a real win for the landlords. And there's adequate money to pay 503b9 claims. So under the circumstances, it is the best result we could have hoped for, and we support confirmation.
We have now been covering JOANN bankruptcies for going on 2 years, and it's actually still not winding down. So we're going to go over the latest from court. Just a couple disclaimers before we get started. One, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just trying to report what I observed as a witness. And also, these videos are unscripted and they're going to be very minimally edited. There are a few things that happened, and also one thing to look out for is what's going to happen with this lawsuit against the former JOANN executives. They did make a reference to the lawsuit. Today's hearing was all about submitting an amended joint Chapter 11 plan. JOANN is the debtor in this situation. This is their second bankruptcy. Also, if you're kind of new to this channel, I've been covering this for a long time. I have an actual JOANN playlist. Yes, there's a playlist. So if you want to see the whole history of how this evolved, you can check out some of my previous coverage. So it was basically, let me refer to my notes here. The JOANN is being represented by a firm called Kirkland & Ellis, and it was really going over the sort of the wind down plan of the debtor's estate, which is JOANN. So this firm submitted a revised plan. Again, not a lot of huge changes, but they submitted a revised plan to Judge Craig Goldblatt. By the way, he was definitely in a better mood for this hearing, so that's a plus. Also, it's on a Thursday. Maybe he's looking forward to the weekend. I don't know. Maybe he had a great holiday. Who knows? But the Kirkland & Ellis firm representing JOANN submitted just an amended plan, and also something called a disclosure statement, which provides details of how their Chapter 11 plan in detail to all of the creditors, to the court, and to the public. So again, I know everyone just loves looking at court documents, right? Again, not a lot of big changes, but they did make a reference to the lawsuit. The lawsuit is out of Ohio, and several of the former JOANN vendors are suing former JOANN executives for claiming that they were negligent and fraudulent in their dealings with the vendors, in painting a rosier financial picture than what actually was, and they're saying they lost millions and millions of dollars. So Kirkland & Ellis is referring, just in the court documents, they're referring to the lawsuit as, quote unquote, the Ohio action. So the Ohio action is referring to the lawsuit, and from what I understand, the JOANN executives, or the defendants in this. Now, this is totally separate. Now, there is the Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings, and that's one thing. That's based out of Delaware bankruptcy court. It's federal court. And then there's also this separate lawsuit. So I know there's a lot going on. This is totally separate, and it was filed in Ohio. And the vendor, again, so the lawsuit, apparently what's happening is the defendants, the former JOANN executives, they're trying to do a few different legal maneuvers and they're trying them all at once. So I guess there's a few things in Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So typically there's an automatic stay, meaning that once you file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, legal action against the debtors or JOANN is halted, like lawsuits, other lawsuits, or collections, because you're going through this bankruptcy and you're going to be dealing with the creditors, also the plaintiffs in this other lawsuit in bankruptcy court. So they're trying to get an automatic stay, so possibly get the lawsuit maybe dismissed, or they're also maybe trying to get this rolled into, I think they're trying all approaches at once, trying to get this lawsuit rolled into the jurisdiction of the Delaware Bankruptcy Court, because it is technically part of the bankruptcy case, but these vendors are just trying a different legal approach. So that has not been decided, and that's the thing I'm really looking for, is what happens with this separate lawsuit out of Ohio, or the Ohio action. Will it be, like, is it going to be dismissed, like thrown out, or is it going to be have a change of venue, be moved or rolled into this primary main bankruptcy case? Who knows? They're suing for millions of dollars. I don't know how much the defendants are worth, the former JOANN executives. Would the money come out of their pockets personally, or would it come out of the estate, basically the JOANN estate? So that's another question I have. And I think that's what's going to make this kind of interesting, I guess, if this could be interesting. So even though not a lot happened in terms of just the court hearing, I think the thing to look for will be what ends up happening with this separate lawsuit out of Ohio. Will it get thrown out? Will it get moved to the Delaware bankruptcy case? We don't really know. So that's the thing I'm really looking forward to. But they did make a mention that there was a provision in the plan, and here I'll show this to you. And basically this is an addendum to the plan, basically saying that any of the revisions or changes made in the modified plan should not affect the ongoing litigation out of Ohio. So that's what this really means. So they do make a reference to the lawsuit in this way, that nothing that's being approved by the court currently in regards to the disclosure statement or the amended plan should have any effect on the Ohio action. So it says, the revisions as reflected in the red line filed are not intended to, and as such revisions may not be asserted by the debtors or the defendants in Ohio action as having any effect upon, related to, subject matter jurisdiction, or one for the transfer venue under blah, 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 for the causes of action asserted in the action initially captioned. Okay, resolve the lawsuit. So what this really means is that none of the changes made in their court filings should have any impact on what they're also trying to do, which is either get this thing thrown out, moved again, because the defendants are claiming that this shouldn't really be a separate lawsuit because it's really just part of the main bankruptcy. But so I don't know. I think that'll be kind of interesting to see if this lawsuit moves forward, if it gets a change of venue, and if these defendants, the JOANN executives, former JOANN executives, can be held, personally liable for their actions while employed at JOANN's. So that's really the thing to look out for. Again, this court hearing, not super exciting. I will insert a clip here of the judge talking about the case, saying it was a challenging case, but wasn't as difficult as it could have been.
Look, this was a hard case, and it's the resolution here is not cause for celebration, but it's decidedly less bad than it could have been, but for all of the hard work and cooperation and spirit of compromise that folks brought to this effort. And I really very much appreciate all of that and everyone's determination to make the best of an unfortunate circumstance. Really did make things better than they could have been, and is very much appreciated. And I'm very happy to enter the order.
And oh, the other thing that happened was they did set up a trust fund for it was like a general unsecured creditors fund, and that was for and it's going to have $2.5 million in it, just to provide, that's for any unsecured claims. So, and this was described as the best possible result for unsecured creditors, particularly landlords, given the liquidation context. So again, not a ton happening in court, but I just wanted to bring you this quick update. Again, if you're kind of new here, be sure to subscribe to Sewing Report Live. I've been updating. There's a lot to keep track of. There is now the main JOANN Chapter 11 bankruptcy case. There's also the separate lawsuit filed against the JOANN executives, and now there is the Design Group America's Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So I, in my wildest imagination, could not have thought there would be this much court action in the sewing and crafting space. So let me know what you think. I know this has been going on forever. Leave a comment. Just be sure to read my community guidelines and be sure to follow the rules. And I am working on some other videos in regard to Design Group Americas. I'm Jen with Sewing Report Live, and I'll see you again in the next one.